Axel, if you want to open the meeting with telling us a little bit about yourself and why you chose to run for re-election.
Thank you, and thanks for hosting today here at the Sun. I am ending my first term as your report commissioner here, and during that term we've made a lot of inroads in the last 6 years from what we had in the prior commission. And my reason to rerun again is to continue with the forward momentum that we've created in my first term. We currently have a very balanced commission. We have a lot of talent on that commission. We have moved a lot of things forward in this community, and if you go through and look at the accomplishments over the past 6 years, they're quite vast. And we've laid the foundation for a very, very bright future moving forward on the economic development side, as well as continuing with efficiencies out of the port. And so I wish to see that through.
Give us just a couple of examples. You said a lot of things forward. What are the highlights to you?
Some of the highlights for me during the past term is, we took a very difficult situation at the Bremerton Marina that was 40-some% occupied up to 97% thereabouts occupied today. At the time, that was a big financial impact on our community and our taxpayers, and so we've really been able to effectively improve that tenancy, which brings tourism to the city, which of course brings economic impact to our community as a whole and reduces the tax burden. The other thing that we did is I actually created the position of Economic Development Director out of the port. It was one of my visions when I took office, and we now have someone very solid in place who is taking that leadership role and is really doing very well with it. Although he is fairly new to us, he's taking direction well and executing well and catching on quickly. In addition to that, I can say that we have really been an efficient, studious individuals as stewards of the taxpayer dollars. I have not raised taxes. I have not voted for a tax increase because we're able to run an operation efficiently without putting extra burdens on the taxpayer, yet execute great projects. One of the recent projects that we put in out there really benefits the entire region, not just the Kitsap community, is we added contract with Airlift Northwest, which is a Seattle-based company, but it is now the first medevac helicopter operation to operate on the Kitsap Peninsula. And that is a great win for our entire community, all the way from the Narrows Bridge to Mason County up to the Olympic Peninsula, to be able to service our people in need much quicker and get them to the hospital and medical attention.
Great, no, that's great. So Robert, why did you decide, actually, real quickly, Diane Manning is who just joined us.
Hi, Diane.
Tell us what inspired you to run for this office.
Well, I moved here in 2006, actually 2005. I retired as a contractor to NASA. And as I was up here in the Kitsap area, I wanted to do something, to benefit the community, to give back, and so to speak. And I was tired looking for something. I was retired. I was looking for something to do. And I looked at several venues to try to run. The first time that I tried to do anything was I found out I lived in 2 streets outside the city limits.
Bremerton city limits.
That's correct. So that negated anything to do with the city council or anything like that. That goes out of the question. So this year the port commission came up, and I thought maybe I could just use some of my expertise and bring some more businesses into the area.
Give us a little bit about your background, professional background.
Well, I started out as a field engineer for NASA. I was a contractor to NASA, and I worked my way up to project manager. And 5 years before I retired, I was a program director for 3 complexes: one in Madrid, one in Canberra, Australia, and one in California. And after I retired in 2005, I moved up here. I took a position as a program director for the Office of Naval Research in Seattle. I did that for 4.5 years for those guys. And I wrote many proposals for those guys to get new businesses to go into to help with the contract that was there, Seattle office.
Well, with that perspective, I'll ask the first question, and it's actually more of your your view of the port's economic development priorities. The airport has been one of them, recruiting businesses to the industrial park has been one of them. Do you think the port's in the right direction as far as those things? Are there different ideas that you'd like to bring?
I think we're going in the right direction. The only problem is the scale of the direction that we're going in. I'm a realist, more or less, so I would like to see us develop the industrial park, but instead of going after real larger concerns, I think we can start out with smaller manufacturing businesses that support the aerospace industry, which is the next big commercialization going on right now.
So you agree with the focus on aerospace and bringing in businesses
Oh,
that
definitely.
the airport?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. That's the up and coming thing. With SpaceX and Tesla, all these guys are commercializing space. You know, you'll be flying pretty soon back and forth to the moon. You know, I don't know if it'll be my tenure, but you know, that's going to take place.
I'll take it from a NASA guy. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what about from your perspective? I guess first, am I correct in what I outlined as some of the port's priorities? And then what do you think you've done as far as the industrial park, airport, and other business development bringing them to Kitsap?
Well, we've done a lot. We've set a lot of things in motion to grow the industrial center. One of the things we've done is we actually implemented the infrastructure to 11 pad-ready sites. And we've done that in the last 5 years, and we did that during the time of the recession, knowing that once the recession let up a little bit, that we're primed for growth in the west side of the Puget Sound region. And so we're really forward thinking in getting ready for that growth, and then again, putting a business director in place. Marketing ourselves is something that we had not done prior to me coming to the commission. We did a very soft job at it, if not a weak job at marketing. And that was a really big focus, was to get the team their heads around the marketing perspective to say, come to Kitsap, we need to show and share what we have available in amenities, in green space, in infrastructure for companies to come to. And then to implement the marketing side of it, to put in the business director and get out there and actively advertise what we have.
And Robert kind of mentioned this, you're talking about scale and size of companies. When you, maybe the tasks you've given to that business director, or when you look at the pad-ready sites, what size of companies do you think should the focus be on?
Well, we just completed a marketing study here this past year, and that marketing study really outlined for us what businesses to address, whether it was aviation, marine, or aeronautics, and space as well. Quite frankly, our industrial center is really primed for mid-size manufacturing and mid-size companies.
What is that employee-wise? Is there a
ballpark? You know, that's going to be somewhere between 50 and 500 employees. Okay. You know, an example is Safe Boats today is pushing 300 employees, and that's a mid-size manufacturing firm. You know, we just recently completed an RFP for Amazon. You know, do we have an opportunity to get Amazon? Well, we fit a lot of the criteria that Amazon has asked for and requested. Do we think we're going to get Amazon? Well, possibly not, because they have a lot of incentives from other suitors in the nation that have better opportunity in which to give them incentives to move there. And of course, we're restricted through the legislature by what kind of incentives that we're allowed to give. So with that said, the purpose of that is to let Amazon know that we're here, let them know what amenities we do have, what is available for them, and at some point in time as they grow, they may need satellite warehouses, mini distribution centers. You know, we fly freight in and out of the airport twice a day with FedEx today, and you know, there's no reason as the future, as our community grows and the needs grow, that can't reach out to an Amazon or to another larger firm.
Robert, when you said scale, maybe explain a little bit more what you intend by that.
Well, I would not go after Amazon, the big Amazon picture, because we don't have the infrastructure for 50,000 people that all of a sudden move on this island. I was looking at more like stuff like electric boats to offset safe boats over here, or like General Dynamics, or companies like Martin Marietta, who are in the aerospace building in business. You know, to try to get some of that manufacturing up here in the Pacific Northwest. And like Axel said, we do offer an airport to fly in, freight in and out of. There's a rail spur up here, but that could be extended. And we do have, you know, just waterway to get in and out of here. So we do have a pretty good area on that side, but it's not able to contain a humongous thing as large as Amazon. And I'm thinking that it costs anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to write an RFP. That money could be better spent on something that we know we can capture, rather than trying to go for the cookie and hope to get a crumb. You know.
So one of the things, you know, our board commented on that this weekend. I think one of the things we were trying to say is that homegrown companies are also really important to
That's
Incubator.
correct.
It's not just about recruiting people from
That's
somewhere
correct.
else. So, what do you think the port is balancing those things appropriately now? Would you change something that
I don't
looks
think
at
we're going
people
after
that
the
are already here?
homegrown businesses, what you said, the smaller entities. I started a small business myself. I started one in my garage. And after over a period of time, over 2 years, we grew to a 1,500 square foot warehouse off Kitsap Way. So I know about starting small and growing.
What kind of company was it?
Our name of the group was called Snap and Spray. We developed a sprinkler system that worked off your garden hose. And we took off and it went out. Amazon picked us up. In fact, we were selling on Amazon for years. Sears Roebuck and Henry's Do It Best Warehouse picked us up. I had so many orders I couldn't fill most of them. And so we ended up selling the business at the height because I couldn't keep up with the demand. And then knockoffs came out. That was another reason too. People copy on your idea, so the knockoffs came out.
Was the industrial park something that ever came up when you were running your business? Did you look?
I was looking at that. But there was a reason why I didn't go there. First of all, I wasn't quite big enough for that. Second one was I didn't have the transportation going out there. The people that I had working for me were using the Kitsap Transit and stuff like that to get back and forth to the warehouse, and that wasn't available for the industrial location out there. Yeah, and so I couldn't buy everybody a car.
Absolutely. When you talk about the business development director, same question. You're talking about marketing, and that's probably outreach. How much of the job is also looking at what's here in the county and trying to grow those businesses? How is his time split, and is that kind of the vision for that job?
Well, it is the vision, David. You know, I always say publicly, I come out and say, we're open for business. The Port of Bremerton is open for business. And we should not put anyone in a box, and we should not isolate anyone or any particular type of business. You know, a year ago we had a budget meeting, and our council said maybe we should have a kitty litter plan. And he said that as tongue-in-cheek, but point of the matter is we should never isolate any type of business, and that we should be open for business every single day. And you know, that is my mission on the thing. Whether it be a large business or a small business, David, I think that we need to be open and receptive. You know, we work with CADA, and CADA is involved with the Boeing suppliers, and many of those suppliers are small companies. They only have 3 or 5 people that operate, or as many as 10 or 12. And then of course there's larger suppliers for Boeing. Now, there's millions of pieces of parts that go into an airplane. I mean, you'd be surprised, from the washer to a stainless wire tie, and all those little pieces come from a supplier and wind up going to Airbus or to Boeing for manufacturers. And those are people also that are small companies that we need to be looking at and talking to, and we are doing that.
So
as well as the larger.
How it's Mr. Baker is the
Bacher.
Excuse me. How is his time kind of split up then, or his mission? From your perspective, is you say, go, you know, spend 365 days a year on the road recruiting companies, or is it go to OC and find the next great idea that's coming up and try to get them into the port? How is his direction given?
Well, let me just say that he reports to the CEO. He doesn't report to the commission, so he doesn't directly work for the commission. We set the direction, we set the expectations, and it's the CEO's and staff's job to deliver and execute that at the end of the day. I can tell you that he was recently at a defense symposium in Las Vegas. I can tell you that he actually met with a company that has roots here in the Kitsap region who are interested in perhaps relocating here. So, you know, that has value as an outreach. He also works with our current tenants, and a lot of our tenants have suppliers as well. You know, Safebuilt has many suppliers. You know, we have General Dynamics and we have Triton Marine at the port. They all have different suppliers. He has met with those tenants. He's acquainting himself with their business, and again, asking, how else can we help you? How can we help you with your business? Can we help you with a supplier to help support your business? And so he's working on all facets of that, not just one facet.
Can I ask a specific question? So what's your level of rate of occupancy right now?
We're at 99% occupied.
99%
At the industrial
occupied.
center.
Are you talking about the industrial park? Or
Yeah.
talking
At the industrial center.
Okay.
You have, how much?
99% occupied.
Of the existing building.
Of existing
There's
building,
some
we are very,
yeah,
very full right now.
Well,
Of the
how much
existing
of land
buildings.
space, though? I mean, that's probably a more appropriate question, I
Yeah.
think, which may have been what you were trying to get to. You know, how much land do you have, how much of your land is occupied by buildings, how much more could you build?
Okay. Well, again, there are over 2,000 acres of industrial property that the port as well as private owners own out there. And so all of that obviously at some point is developable. I can't give you a percentage of how much is occupied by buildings today as a percentage. I can tell you of all the buildings we have that we're very, very full. And in the next year, we have coming plan, we have a lot of plans in motion, in momentum right now to expand that. We're going to be putting up several buildings next year and the year after, because frankly we're out of room. We also are developing a section called Sky Park, which is 5 new sites, which is off Airport Industrial Way. And I was instrumental in getting funding for a $2 million extension of Airport Industrial Way, and now we're able to develop that site that we were not able to develop prior.
So here's another related question. How much money it used to be like when this, you know, years ago, how much money are you losing each month or each year? I mean, in terms of, because I know it used to be like you're paying so much money for owning the property and paying on it, and it wasn't always necessarily covered by the occupancy. So is it pretty much self-financing, or are you still heavily subsidized by taxes?
Well, the port's a tax-based municipality.
Right.
Okay, and so the port is not really designed to make a profit. That is not what we do. We're designed to build business, provide infrastructure for companies to come, to provide jobs for our community. So the port probably will never be not tax funded. But I can tell you that we're operating at such an efficient level that I have voted no new taxes for 6 years. So we have not increased the tax impact on any of our citizens in the Port District, or had the need to.
And the marina was where, at one point, a majority of the subsidy was going there, and it is now at what occupancy level?
When I came into position, the marina was 40+% occupied, and we were losing quite a bit of money there. But then it was a brand new operation as well, or several years underway. So again, through a marketing plan, through advertising, through promotion, putting the right people in place, increasing efficiencies, also looking at the operational opportunities, we've reduced the expenses and we've increased the revenues.
Let me ask a question about, you just mentioned you're going to start building, are these spec buildings?
Are they spec? Well, at this time, they're spec buildings.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a tenant who's investing in them.
Not
These
at this moment.
very similar to what the port did years ago when they built the one right when you drive into the industrial park.
Correct,
It was built
but we have
to attract
tenants,
someone.
I'm sorry, we have tenants coming to us
Oh, okay.
frequently looking for certain sized buildings and certain amenities, and that's what we're looking to provide.
So the construction and design are being influenced by kind of some specifics of, you know, someone's looking for this type of a shop.
Correct.
And what is the outlay on the port side?
Well, we own the land.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we would have to put up the building. Now, the outlay obviously is the type of building, construction of the building, and what amenities the clients are going to need.
Oh, I guess that's what I mean, like, what kind of commitment financially is the port making to this?
Well, we have
Have
not
you
put a
decided
number
that?
yet. We have not put a number yet to
Okay.
it because we have not decided on what size building yet.
Okay, all right.
That's being in the discussion stage still.
You're just looking at one building?
No.
Do you have a sense of what you'd like to see?
Well, I can tell you, our professional input that we've received is we have companies that are looking for somewhere around 10,000 square feet, and we have companies potentially that could look upwards of 30,000 square feet. So somewhere in that arena is what we're contemplating right now. And from my standpoint, whatever building we do put up, I would like to have the flexibility that that building could be expanded. You know, so if someone came out there and says, I need 10,000 square feet to start, and the potential of my business to grow, I might need 15 or 20 later on, that we're able to either expand that building for that person. So not just, you know, a block building that you're stuck between that box, you've got to have the flexibility to grow and expand for your customer.
Sure. But you feel it is appropriate to get some space open so you guys can start recruiting towards it?
Well, it is appropriate because we're very full out there. And we need to continue to grow and expand, and that is our entire mission at the port, so it is appropriate. Yes.
Robert, you agree with that sort of an idea that the port needs to start building?
Yeah, it does, but you guys went way Bobby here. You didn't give me a shot here. Right now, there's 21 acres of usable land right now at the industrial park. I mean, ready to go with electric and sewer and all that good stuff. And it's $7,000 an acre rental per year. That's $150,000. You know, if you do the math. So that's all ready to go. I'm for building to suit. You know, if a manufacturer comes in and he wants to put a building up and he's going to do a long-term commitment on a lease, I'm willing to build to suit. I hate spec buildings because you kind of lock somebody into a box. What if they don't like the building? You're stuck with this building, this monstrosity that you already paid for. I don't think that's good business.
Do you think that hinders the port at all? Or would you worry about that? That I'm a company floating around Puget Sound and I see a lot of land here, but there's no building.
Why don't you talk to me then? We'll talk you see what kind of building you want. I'll put up what you want. This is what I'm saying, build to suit.
Sure.
Okay? Not that you walk up and you see an old warehouse and then I'm going to demolish it for you and put it the way you want it. I'm going to put what you want in there for your business. This is what I foresee.
Oh, sure. Certainly that's a more kind of conservative approach, but do you think that has hindered? Do you have any instances where someone said, hey, I'm ready to go, but I can't because there's nothing?
Yeah, if I could just touch on that. You know, if you came to the port today and said, I need a building of 18,000 square feet, I want a steel building, or I want a tilt-up building, this is what I need in 18 months, and we sign a long-term lease, we're in. Let's go. Let's get going on it. Mm-hmm. And we have done the NEPA and SEPA and all the groundwork already, so that process is already, we have already smoothed the way for individuals to come and build a building. So are we just putting in spec buildings? No, we will build a suit as well. But most of the time, we have found that clients that come and look for a location are either moving their company or they're wanting to start their company and they don't always want to wait for a building to be built for them. They want to move in the next 90 to 120 days, not 6 or 7 months down the road. And so timing, you know, for a lot of people is an issue, and then if timing isn't, then absolutely we'll build it to spec.
Well, it shouldn't take you 8 to 9 months to put together a 10,000 square foot building. That's ridiculous.
Robert, what's your opinion? You know, Axel's talking about CADA and the recruiting in the aerospace sector that's been going on for a couple of years now, and you know, seeing some success with Airlift Northwest, and now this other idea to put some more pads there. What's your opinion of how the port has done in that sector, and do you think it's enough of a priority? Is it too much focus right now?
You mean the aerospace business?
Aerospace business, yeah.
No, I don't think it's too much of a focus. I think it's where we should be looking at. You know, locally here and aerospace to start, you know. I mean, this is what I've been harping on for a long time. Let's go after these companies. You know, I would like to see the port commissioner get out there and hawk, if that's the way you want to use, term you want to use, the Kitsap community. You know, this guy here, this economic development guy, I don't know if he's from around here or not. I don't know what his expertise is or what his area. I mean, you know, where he grew up. Who knows the Puget Sound any better than the port commissioner?
So, your opinion, you don't need a business development guy. That's a commissioner's job.
I would
recruit companies and to do marketing.
I would think so.
That's your job.
Yes.
One question would be, you also have a CEO, so I don't know what the CEO is doing, but.
Well, that was how it ran in the past. In fact,
Yeah.
I think Kerry Bozeman.
I can't even remember who these people are, the CEO of
The economic development guy is focused only on the Port of Bremerton issues, is that the way it works?
Well, he's employed by the Port of Bremerton, and his #1 focus is to work and obviously market for the Port of Bremerton. Now, like I said earlier, we have private landowners that also have industrial properties. The port itself, we own the land and we're able to lease that land to a client, to a customer. If a customer comes in and says, I want to buy land, then our director would then work or transfer that customer onto the private owner that's able to sell land. And so we work with the private owner as well as the port. So it's not just, he's not just focused on the port, but he's also focused on the entire industrial properties.
I see where he's coming from. You want to know is, does this guy deal with the port of Port Orchard Marina as well as the Brownsville Marina and all that other stuff?
Yeah,
he should be marketing everything.
Precisely.
Right.
If you have him on the payroll, then obviously he should be focused on developing all the
areas, that is
rather
correct.
than just
one. Right.
one entity.
Right.
And that is correct. The port has numerous assets. And so when I refer to the port, that is all of our assets. It's not a port isn't a water asset. It is aviation, it's the industrial center, it's marine, it's all of that. And he has one.
Can I ask another question? Go ahead. You know, we've been having this discussion about economic development among the board members here. And I have been arguing that, I think like Robert here, that maybe too many economic development people are of the opinion they've got to go out and recruit these big, huge companies and then give them all these different kinds and types of concessions. Amazon is going to be asking for all kinds of concessions wherever they relocate. State of Wisconsin just had a large television monitor company relocate to southeastern Wisconsin. It costs the state of Wisconsin $300,000 per job to relocate that company. Their payback is going to be something like 35 years before they ever see any real gain from that. So I wonder if all these economic development people are so focused on that standard model that you got to go out and recruit other companies into your jurisdiction that maybe you're losing sight of creating jobs organically within the area that you work rather than constantly out recruiting. Maybe there's better methodologies and protocols to create jobs organically within the county. I mean, I am of the belief, and I've said this in my email exchanges, localism is going to be the new globalism. I mean, 10 years ago we all thought, oh my God, the world is going to be going global and we have to go after all these global corporations to have them move their assets to us locally. But I think we need to be focused on a local economic development strategy. So, I mean, what are your thoughts in that space? Robert, you want to start?
I totally agree. I'm looking at there are a lot of local businesses that we can go after. I mean, when I say local, I'm looking for businesses that can employ the population here. Okay, I know that the Olympic College is doing its best to put out people for whatever job you want them to do. You know, whatever training you need, they're up to the plate. Say, hey, well, if you need welders, you need electricians, you need carpenters, this is what we need to come up with. And so and if you look around the area, there are hundreds of people that are looking for places to relocate. And this is the best kept secret, right here on this island. I call it across the sound, across the pond, you know. But this is the ideal spot.
Is there a type of business or a type of sector or industry that does have more potential here than we're giving credit to?
How about manufacturing positions? How about the electronic area? You know, I'm not talking about TV manufacturing. I'm not talking about parts for satellites that go into the space business. You know, I'm talking about newer developments for solar power. You know, newer developments for battery power for the lithium-ion cars that are out there. You know.
So related to, sorry.
Go ahead.
No. So related to that, do you have that kind of option out there at the port where you can do sort of business incubators? Where you, at least, because you have a lot of space up there.
Oh, yeah.
So is there that potential where you do have a facility that creates an opportunity for really small businesses to experiment or to do the things that, you know, otherwise they're not big enough to get, they can't afford the larger spots of land, but they might be able to use some resources out there to do some local research and stuff.
So if I may, I'd like to go back and kind of address
Yeah.
Mike's question, if that's okay, and then come back to that. All right. So talking about incentivizing, let me share with you how what my experience has been on incentivizing. We here in the state, we're not allowed to incentivize, as you explained Wisconsin did with $300 million probably. We're not allowed that. We're restricted by law through the legislature that we're not allowed to recruit businesses and help to pay their way to come into our region. So we have to market from a much different angle here in the state of Washington than other states do. You know, last year I met with the Vice President of Lockheed Martin for North America and had a very long conversation with him, and I met with him again this year. We stay in very close contact with companies that are anchored in our region. Lockheed Martin does operate here. And we talked about the opportunities of expansion and what was on the horizons. And the discussion we got into was actually incentives. And his question was, what type of incentives can you and the state of Washington provide us here at Lockheed Martin for us to relocate a operation there? We're about to bid on Project X. Well, I have to have the State Department of Commerce director with me, and we got into what we could do. Now, at the end of the conversation, he said, well, let me give you an example. He said, the state of Texas will give us $20 million to land our project here, because that is what they will incentivize us to do that. And when we go to bid against other contractors for that same project, we build that incentive funds into our bid, so we're able to be more competitive on our bid in hopes to capture that business with that contractor. And that we cannot do here in the state of Washington. And so we do have to market different, Mike, and you're right. And because of that, we do think differently. So again, at the end of the day, we're open for business. We have to be flexible, and we have to know the competition's tough. And you know, the comment was made, we're the best kept secret. Well, we were the best kept secret. And that is good in some cases, and in some cases it's not so good because it doesn't create jobs. And that is why it's so important that the court continues on the mission of marketing itself and letting people know that we're here and that we have a presence. Whether it be going to a defense symposium where defense contractors such as General Dynamics and those companies work in our community already, we need to let them know that we're here and we have room for growth and expansion should they want to grow their project here. And so on the incentive side, we have to think differently. It's kind of a whole different arena when it comes to that. You know, we talked about small companies and mid-sized companies. A little bit to what Loretta asked. We have a couple of companies. One is called Critical Technologies, which is energy company. It is more of an incubator type of company. It's privately owned, privately funded right now. They have an absolutely incredible energy plant that they designed. And again, it's in small infancy stage, in the incubator stage. Another company that was very small that recently opened up at the port was Inventec. And that company was also more or less an incubator and a small takeoff, which now has expanded, and now they're looking at building a building on port property. And so, you know, going from a small company from incubation stage to growing that company within our community. And those people are from our community.
Let me segue on what both Mike and Loretta have said and ask you a little more of a direct question. As the incumbent, what have you done as the port, or who have you worked with locally to build business opportunities? And what I'm looking at is, how have you gone to Olympic? Have you built any partnerships? Have you gone to high schools? What are you doing locally here to make those people want to come here? How are you providing them employees? How are you, if Robert wants to build his gadget again, you know, how are you going to help him? Can you build a 10,000 square foot building and divide and have the ability to carve out 300 square feet for this guy to start a two-person business, or somebody else to start a brewery, or whatever it might be? What are you doing that way?
That is a very good question. That is exactly what we do. If you go back and you look at Safe Boats, when Safe Boats started, we had a very large building. And when the owner of Safe Boats came to us and said, hey, I want to start this boat company, but I don't need this big building. It's too big for me. I only want to rent part of it. We took a piece of masking tape and we ran it down the middle of the building. And we said, okay, we're going to rent you this side of the masking tape. And when you grow and you think you need the rest of the building, we'll then look at the lease and we will lease you the remainder of that building. So we're very flexible with the businesses that come to us.
Are you partnered with Olympic College right now?
We are partnered and we support and look for employees. So we have a company.
How does that partnership work? Describe it, please.
Well, I gotta tell you, our staff does that, okay? I personally am a supporter of the Olympic College Foundation myself. I work with their technology side and the foundation people directly, but indirectly, our staff are the ones that work with the company that comes to town and says, I want to do this, and I need 5 or 6 skilled people, and these are the skilled people that I need. So our partnerships that we've created over the years with not only Olympic College, but also with KITA, and KITA is also partnered with Olympic College, they're partnered with us, they're partnered with many other businesses. That entire EDA and connectivity is who we work with and partner through to create the needs for that company.
Are you partnered with Naval Base Kitsap? Do you have representatives that go to the TAP classes, the Transition Assistance Program classes for sailors and Marines getting out of the service? Because if you look at your average enlisted submariner today, they've got more skills to tip their fingers than most of us have in this room and ever will have.
Right.
So do you do that? How do you say you're talking locally, but I don't.
But they're not the employer. They're not an employer.
I understand that, but if they're trying to increase local business to try and match a business who comes in or they're marketing to with talent locally, they may be the nexus that can do that. So how are you doing that?
We're doing that through KITA.
Through KITA.
Kitsap, that's our EDA.
Right,
that's our regional EDA. They're the people that we partner with that actually do that. We have staff that are basically staff people operate the Port of Bremerton. We don't operate any of the businesses. We don't supply staffing for any of the businesses. But like I say, if we have a business that says, hey, I want to relocate to Kitsap, and I need 10 employees that are skilled welders, and I need 5 employees that are skilled in technical other arenas, then we partner with KITA and we go, this is what we're looking for. Let's get with Olympic College and we'll partner with that. And that is, again, with the development director, that's part of what his task would be, is to create that liaison. But we are partnered with those people.
Let me ask a question tailored for the non-incumbent.
Okay.
Sorry.
This is one of the problems that we have here is we end up, the incumbent comes in and we always have these questions and we're curious, but how familiar are you with these organizations like KITA and even with the economic development for the city of Bremerton and for, who else is there, other organizations, and do you have any ideas on what you would do or how you think the port could complement and partner with those organizations?
Well, to be honest with you, I really don't know that much about KITA, okay? Because I've come in here cold, so to speak. What I bring to the table is I bring to the table my best contacts and my influence to go out and meet with people personally. I'm a person, hands-on individual. I would like to, in answer to your question about businesses, I like to go out myself and see exactly what the need is and try to bring them in here and try to match their needs for skilled individuals with the people that we have here. And like you said, the Navy, the sailors that come off the subs, the nuclear engineers that are on the ships, those guys.
There's lots of technical skills.
Oh boy, these guys are fantastic. And those skills would match a number of employees. You know, if we can get the jobs here.
So related to that, then a follow-up question for both of you is, you have a CEO and you have a director of economic development now, but you're running for the position of commissioner. So how do you see your role as commissioner versus, because you're saying you want to go out and interact with people directly. How does that?
Well,
how-
before I started running, I never knew a port commissioner existed. I had no idea what the port commissioner was. I never saw him anyplace. You know, I had to go, when I first saw there was a position up for election for a port commissioner, I had to do some research to find out exactly what they did, okay? Because the people that I met at the marina was not this guy, and was not the other two, it was somebody else. People at the airport that I met who ran the airport was not this guy, and not the other two, it was somebody else. So I had to find out exactly what the port commissioner was supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be, he oversees all the operations of the CEO and the managers of the ports. But I don't think that they really get their fingers in or have a really hands-on approach so that the public knows that these guys are around. I very seldom ever see them at any of the local places. Like I belong to the Lions Club, and I very seldom ever see any of them at the Lions Club. He came once. I don't see him at the Rotaries. I don't see him at different venues around town for the colleges, Olympic College when they have graduation night or stuff. I never see him up there. I never see him at any of the programs for the high school. You know, I don't see our program manager there. Our port commissioner there. I see the mayor, I see the city council, I see everybody but the port commissioner, you know. And I think he should be doing a better hands-on job. Another thing too is that a topic came up in one of the other discussions about strategy, long-term strategy for the ports and marina. I have no idea what that is. I have never seen it. I have never, in the audience, have any input into that. I don't know who developed that. That just came out of the blue. Somebody in the back room came up with an overall strategy. I've never seen it.
Is it out for public, displays it on a website somewhere, or available upon request, this strategy that Robert's talking about?
Well, I think Robert's talking about 3 and 5 years, 3 and 5 year master plan. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. We have that. The CEO has that, and the commissioners manage that, and that is a fluid plan. We actually call it our capital investment plan or capital plan. And again, we're working 3, 5, and 8 years out. Just like I talked about the 11 pad-ready sites that we provided infrastructure to 4 and 5 years ago.
But that's not something that the general public has available to them to understand where the port at this point in space and time might be looking to go to.
It sure is. It is available.
Okay.
It is on the website. It's a fluid document, but it is available. Again, if the public has the questions, we're happy to sit down and talk to them or share with them what it is whatever the question might be. My staff's available. We do tours. We do a lot of information sessions as requested. We have 2 commission meetings a month. They are publicized on BCAT. We have an audience there. If you'd like to participate, the public is generally welcome. And of course, I encourage the public to stay informed. Want to touch base on.
Can you answer my question?
I'm sorry.
Can I repeat it again? So how do you see your role as a commissioner with respect to your CEO and your economic development person and your other?
Okay, thanks for that. I think the commission needs to be very careful not to get caught up in the everyday-to-day business of the minutiae of the business. And sometimes that can happen because we're all eager to have it successful and make everything successful. The role of the commission really is to set policy and set direction. And that direction, of course, is many times given or implemented to us through our constituents. What does our constituents want? What is the direction of the community asking for? What are they requiring? But at the end of the day, the staff are the ones that have to execute. I'm involved in many things, probably more than I need to be, frankly. If we're out there telling the staff what to do every day, then we're not being good leaders. We're being the doers. And we need to continue to be the leaders where we're forward-thinking and we're visionaries and looking at the future as we grow our region and our community.
We talked about the Bremerton Marina success story as far as vacancy goes there, but do you see any improvements coming there for marina goers? There's a piece of property that the port owns. Do you think that's something that the port should invest in, adding some services at the Bremerton Marina?
Sorry, just a moment.
Talking about the property that's down by the marina?
Yeah,
Isn't it up for sale? Isn't it up for sale?
Yeah.
And I don't know too much about that, but I think that they're gonna put some condos down there, is that correct? Is that my understanding?
That has been an idea.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
an
an
idea.
idea. I
I'm
heard that
asking you,
idea.
what do you think would be the best thing for the marina down there? That's what I'm asking.
I like that idea. People living down there by the marina.
Selling the property to a developer.
Sure.
Okay. David, so our Bremerton Marina is a state-of-the-art facility. And if you go back and look at the customer comments and you look at write-up in Travelers, the marina books that the boaters all purchase and use on their boats and yachts, we have one of the highest rated marinas in all of Puget Sound. Not only is it new, state-of-the-art, but it has the highest service levels, the cleanest facilities. We get the highest ratings all the way from the north end of the state all the way down. And so we're very proud of that. We're very proud to provide a world-class operation because that brings tourism and people want to come back to your facility and, of course, come to the community. When the marina was built, parking was limited. And so at the time the commission was on board, not this commission but the prior commission, they saw the need for additional parking. And so that is why that property on Washington Street was purchased, was to provide parking for our marina users and for liveaboards. And that is why we have that property today. So really to answer the question, is that property well suited for just a parking lot? Well, we have entered into an earnest money agreement with a firm who is currently looking at the opportunities for what should go on that property, as well as they're doing due diligence on the project. And so we're working in a partnership level with them so that we retain parking for our marina and for our community, as well as adding the potential of multi-housing and or retail on that piece of property.
Okay, keeping the parking is important to you.
Absolutely, that is a stipulation that the commission had. We had many discussions on that parking must be retained for the marina and for the community.
And are there any other amenities that you're hearing from marina users that would help keep that vacancy level so low?
Well, one of the things that we heard from our users was we needed better Wi-Fi. And of course, all of us, as technology grows, you start out with a computer, and now you got a cell phone that's as good as or better than your computer, and then you got the grandkids or the kids that want to play these fast video games. They need high-speed internet, and so the demand continues to increase. And so what we had when we built the marina was not adequate for today's uses. We all become much more technically savvy, and so we've expanded the Wi-Fi this past year at the marina and put quite a bit of money in that for our tenants and users, and that was a big need that was highly requested.
What about your other kind of marina type properties in Port Orchard? Are there improvements or investments that we'll see there in the future?
Yes. Now, the Port Orchard Marina has over 400 slips, and the Bremerton Marina has 328 slips. We do continual maintenance. We replaced the curtains last year on covered moorage in Port Orchard. The curtains that hang down, weather curtains. We replaced those. We're currently looking at the breakwater in Port Orchard, which is almost at its maximum life span, and so we're working with our legislators looking for some capital money to do a capital project. And we've had our engineers working on what we can do to continue to expand the life of that breakwater. So you'll see a few projects coming through in the next several years.
Question for clarification. Does KETA predominantly report to the port?
Yes, KETA provides quarterly updates to the Port of Bremerton.
No, but I mean, is that, I know John Powers, and who does he actually report to? Does he report, is he predominantly sort of, I know he gets funding, they get funding from a variety of sources, but where is their primary responsibility and accountability lines, that line with
The KETA Board of Directors.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I guess.
His boss is the KETA Board of
And
Directors.
how much influence, his boss, yeah, is it, okay.
He works for the KETA Board of Directors,
Right.
which the Port of Bremerton Commissioners are on
On
that
it.
board.
Right, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we're
How
one
much
of,
I
we're
guess
one
my
of many.
question is, how much responsibility for you, do you take for KEDA and how well they're doing?
Well, the port is leading its own economic development sector with the partnership of KEDA. You know, KEDA represents many, it doesn't represent just the port. It represents the entire region.
County,
Pretty much.
County.
The EDA, they're our regional EDA. They represent everyone. So their initiative is not just the port, or not just Kitsap Bank, or not just the sprinkler company, you know, over in Bremerton. Their focus is more broad-based. But what does happen is they do provide the port with quarterly reviews. Okay, that's an expectation that we expect that from John Powers and his group. And then in addition to that, when they have business interests that come to them, or they have business interests that may come through the Department of Commerce through the EDA, those then get filtered through to us if they fit our demographics. Okay, so if someone comes down and wants to put up a sandwich shop, well, it's a great idea to have at the port, but we have a diner, and having a sandwich shop on the interstate probably isn't quite going to be very successful. Yet, if we have a manufacturing company looking to light, then that information gets connected with us at the port, and then that comes through KEDA. And that is why I say it's important that we have these partnerships in our community, because not only do we get interest from internally in our community, but also externally in the community. So it covers hopefully all the bases.
Can I ask a question? So you're saying KEDA filters out these requests? Is that what
They
you're saying?
sort them. They get the requests. Either someone knocks on the door and says, "Hi, I'm from outside. What can you tell me about Kitsap?" Or it comes to the Department of Commerce. And depending on what type of request it is, KEDA gives that. You know, if somebody says, "I want to put a business in Paulsville," then that request would go to Paulsville. If someone says, "I want to put a manufacturing center in," obviously it's going to go to the largest manufacturing area, which is us. And so KEDA shares that knowledge that they get. They get that pool of information.
So they filter.
They disseminate.
They filter what comes in.
Well, I don't want to use the word filter. Let's say they disseminate it.
Direct,
They disseminate it.
yeah.
And filters.
How many port authorities are there at Kitsap?
There are 17 port districts in Kitsap. You know, you can have a small port district like Illahee, or Waterman is a port district over in the corner of Port Orchard there, or Manchester, or Brownsville. But each one of those, you know, has their own little niche in the community.
I was going to ask, I'm baffled by, I mean, I'm from the Midwest, so I'm baffled by these port authorities and why they were originally, you know, put in place at the outset, and how do they all work together, and how do they get governed properly? I mean, do you report to anybody in the end other than the voters?
I report to the taxpayers and to my constituents.
Can I get follow up on your concern and why you ran, and a question for you? Because when I used to live in Seabeck, I used to follow what was going on with the port more closely, and a lot of people didn't feel like the port commission or the staff really communicated with the community that well. And I have to say, as I observe things or whatever gets reported in the Kitsap Sun, it doesn't seem like it's gotten that much better. So do you feel like there's room for improvement? Because I don't know if you guys have done anything for the Seabeck Marina after all those years. I know the private sector did it themselves. So I'm just, do you feel like you have room for improvement in communicating with your constituents and taxpayers, and not just you personally, I don't
The port.
but yeah, the port.
Well, let me expand on that a little bit. You know, I find it somewhat disappointing that many times the community isn't more involved in local government.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be that when there is a problem, or maybe things aren't as smooth as they should be, then people get excited and they tend to take an interest. When things are going calmly or things are going very smoothly, there's really not really an interest. I can tell you that since I've been elected, I am from Seabeck, Loretta. I live there. I have been there in this region over 37 years. It is my home. It's in my heart. Okay. When I ran for office, I had a big learning curve when I first got elected, and there was a lot to learn. But regardless of that, I've had 3 community meetings at CVAC, and I can tell you the last community meeting, I think it was 3 people. So disappointing to me that the community doesn't always get as involved as I personally maybe would like them. You know, and maybe I'm a little biased because it's what I do. It's where my heart lies, is in the port. But, you know, how do you get the community interested in that? Okay, so that's a great question. And, you know, we're going to continue to do that. And we talked about that already earlier this year, doing some outreach in the communities as well. But again, we are in BCAT twice a month. We do have public meetings that are open. We provide refreshments that we fund ourselves. The commissioners purchase those themselves, you know.
Is it a priority to do any more development in CVAC?
It's always a priority on my list personally, David. Let me just tell you, there's a lot of talk out there at CVAC in that small community and at the coffee shop. But what has the port done for CVAC? Okay, well let me share with you. First of all, that is predominantly a waterfront property. And most of the waterfront is privately owned, okay? And you just can't come in as a government municipality and bulldoze down 3 houses and decide you're gonna put something up, okay? Not real popular. So with that said, I've met with the public out there and taken feedback and have worked diligently, and I'll tell you, hundreds of hours in looking at what kind of a project we can do for CVAC. Because I live there, and it's important to me, and it's important to my constituents. So what we have done, let me share with you what we have done. The one thing we have done is I have set aside in excess of $200,000, and I'm going to set aside an additional $50,000 in this upcoming budget cycle for a project designated for the CVAC community. Okay? That has never been done in the 100-year port history of the Port of Bremerton for CVAC. Okay, I have done that. The second thing out there is you always hear about the Misery Point boat ramp. I'm sure you've all heard about it off and on, maybe from a friend, from a fellow fisher person, or someone that uses that. That is a difficult ramp. I met with the regional director of Fish and Wildlife last year and his entire staff. We had almost an entire room full. We presented a PowerPoint. And we're looking at doing a port-state partnership to improve and renovate that ramp. Okay. And in fact, I had some conversation with my lobbyist day before yesterday as we go into next year, again, hoping to get a capital budget out of Olympia. And as you know, the legislature to date has not yet executed a capital budget out of Olympia, which is holding up hundreds of projects in our state. It's holding up millions of dollars of funding and holding back jobs. And I personally don't feel that's right. I think our legislature and our governor need to go to work and get a capital budget out.
Let's let Robert answer the CVAC question. What are your concerns out in CVAC, and are there projects that you think could be accomplished?
First thing I want to say is, getting back to the dock, the port of Bremerton, the people that I talk to, they have a problem with port access to the boats when they have festivals down here. Like, you know, the Blackberry Festival or some other kind of festival, they have a hard time getting to and from their ships because of all the people in the booths. There's no special road. That was the biggest complaint that they had then, it was access to the port. CVAC, I heard a lot about CVAC, and I went out there, I met with about 4 or 5 people around the table in the general store, the coffee table, I guess that's what it's called. I met the owner of the store, Billy, and the lady next door, Suzanne, and a couple of other ladies that were there, and we talked about the CVAC Marina. And what they would like to have is just some kind of public access to the marina, which they don't have now. There's no, because it's privately owned, so there's a locked gate on the door. Nobody can get out there. You can't even come in and out from that. So they would like to have at least access to some parts of the marina. And from what I understand, we had a chance to buy that marina at one time before, but we did. That never took place, and I don't know how that fell through. But anyway, I contacted the owner of the CVAC Marina. In fact, I got a meeting with him this coming Friday at his office in Burien, and we're going to talk about what he can do to, what has to be done to get some access to that marina, and what it's going to cost us. $50,000 is nothing. That you need more money than that. I looked in the budget and I saw there was $50,000 earmarked for CBAC. I couldn't find the $200,000. I was told that that money was put in this fund called reserves. Well, reserves could be anything. You know, whatever comes up, that comes out of the reserves. So I'm not quite sure that that money is there for the CBAC Marina. So, yeah, I would like to see them have access. You know, it would be a real, that's a really, really, really good spot down there. It's a really beautiful spot for public access to have boats
You want
connected.
to clarify that?
Yeah, I'd like to accentuate that, if I may. First of all, let me go back to the budget. I don't know where Mr. Perkins got the budget, because the budget's not out. Okay, it's not public. It isn't finalized. The commission hasn't looked at the one page of the budget.
I got it from one of your other port commissioners.
Okay, so the budget's not out. Okay, the budget isn't
Officially.
It's not out. It's not completed. In fact, we've only gone through one page of the budget.
Just for clarification, you mean the one that includes the 50 grand?
No, one
200,000.
200,000.
Or the one that includes the 200?
I have set aside in excess of $200,000 since I've been in office for a project to CBAC. And I have full support of the current commission in which to execute a project to CBAC that the community needs to come up and ask what that project is. It's not government's place to tell the community what the project is. It's the community that says, we'd like to do a project to CBAC and we know you want to help us. This is a project that we see viable. So that community needs to come together and decide on the project that they'd like to have. But I am setting the groundwork so that we have money from the port to invest into that community. Okay? Again, that has never been done. And today we have an excess of $200,000. And when our next annual budget is executed, we'll have an additional $50,000 in that budget, which will now be $250,000.
And this money, but it is, I mean, it's correct, it is sitting in a reserve.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that money is earmarked
That's-
for the CBAC community
Okay.
and for a project.
Make sure we're all.
Okay. So, I want to talk about the marina, kind of a misconception about the marina. I've had a great misconception. The marina is privately owned. Okay? The owners are individual business people out of Seattle who worked in Alaska the majority of the summer and in very difficult times to communicate. But when I was at CBAC at my last public meeting, I was asked, can we get public access onto that privately owned dock? Okay? Now again, the owners are the ones that need to make that decision. So I met with the owners several times. I met with legal, and we put together a document this year, about midsummer, a multi-page document, which outlines public access on that privately owned pier, ADA standards. We offered to build it out. In addition to that, to provide a float that for the potential of a boat to come in, or a boater could come in, a transient boater come visit, get off, buy at the general store, whatever the case is. And so we had that proposal. It was written by legal, and we have submitted it to the owners of the marina. To date, I have no official word back from the owners. Okay, now again, they're gone most of the summer, and again, very difficult to communicate with. But to this date, the proposal's on the table. We have offered a long-term lease for public access, but once again, it is a privately owned marina, and the private owners are the ones that need to make that final decision. And so the community of CBAC could help and assist in this by working and talking to the owners and giving them support to buy into that offer. Okay?
No, thank you for that.
So the port's really gone outreach on this
Yeah.
thing, and we've gone very over on trying to get access to CBAC. So
We're just over an hour, and that's kind of what we had saved off for the meeting. What we would do is I would just ask you for a closing statement, and I think I'd frame it this way. If you're elected 4 years from now, what would you like to be able to tell voters? We'll let Robert go first this time.
I'd like to tell voters that we have a thriving industrial park with public transportation access to it. We have a NASCAR racetrack out here at the raceway, and we have planes flying in all the time with with visitors and with people that work here. We have 3 of the best marinas, or going, not just the one best marina, but 3 of the best, Port Orchard and the Brownsville Marina, and the Poulsbo Marina also. And I just want to be, I just wanted to have us be a more of a up-to-date community, you know.
Axel, if you do this again, what do you want to say at the end?
Well, David, thank you. You know, we're going to continue to work on our positive relationships that we've established with the cities and the county, and together we're going to continue to build community-wide impact on the improvements. I'm going to continue to work and diligently work on the CBEC access. You know, I haven't let off from the day I took office. I've worked on it, and will continue to work on that. Continue to work with Fish and Wildlife and improve the boat ramp out there for everyone. We'd like to extend the current rail spur for added use as well as new users that may come to the industrial center. Currently, we are importing almost all of our propane through that rail spur that comes into the county. Want to extend Airport Industrial Way. You know, I implemented the last extension over $2.5 million, and I'd like to implement the next extension of Airport Industrial Way, which accesses additional properties. Develop the 5 new sites at Sky Park, which are off Airport Industrial Way. Add between 250 to 500 jobs to our community. And lastly, I'll stay tough on no new taxes, because we're going to continue to run efficiently and responsibly in the best interest of the community that we serve.
Thank you both. Good luck in the weeks to come.